Hello everybody and welcome back. It is Jeff again coming to you with Minecraft from the Minecraft vanilla server. And guess what? Today there are so many things to talk about, so many things to do. But look at this. How awesome is that? Shreem is on the server yet again. I'm not exactly sure if he's coming back to the group like fully or if he's just hanging out with us and having a good time, but I think we really inspired him at Minecon because he hung out with all of us. I think he had a great time. We all had a great time with him. Shreem's an awesome dude. It's very, very sad that he had to leave us in the first place, but understand life gets in the way. He wanted to make sure he focused on all his studies and stuff like that, I know. So I'm so happy that he's back. I'm so excited. But anyways, we'll get into that story on a different day, or maybe not that story, but just hanging out with that guy on a different day. He's kind of getting the feel for the server, checking some things out right now. But if you'll notice, I've changed the face of the dog from my previous build. I've also moved it over, so I shifted it so it's not perfect. But this was sent to me by my good friend SannieFun. I thought I had met Sannie before. Maybe I didn't meet Sannie before, actually. Maybe we had just talked online a little bit, but I met her at Minecon, and we hung out quite a bit there. She's an awesome person. I'll put a link to her channel down in the description as well, but hung out with Sannie all through Minecon, and she saw my video making the dog face, and she sent me not only a better rendition of the dog, a very easy-to-follow diagram, but also one for a cat that I'm about to put here right now, as well as a little bit of building design changes behind it so that we can go through and make it look a little bit better than it currently did, because it wasn't exactly looking what you call the greatest. So I'm just gonna tear this thing down and start it over. But I figured, what better thing to do while building this than talk to you guys a little bit about a couple stories from Minecon, maybe just one story, and this one, you know, because Sannie is involved in this and giving me the pictures and all to go off of to make these things look a lot better. We'll talk about one that involves Sannie. So, this story, it doesn't start out with Sannie around, but this story involves a couple of us. We went out one night to the Curse Network, took us to dinner down the street from the place. Do I just do it one apart? I think I do want to just do this one apart. I'm actually looking at her diagram and it looks a little bit different from this angle. We're going to see if I can make this thing look right though. I think we're good. Not exactly sure. Oh yeah, the new Minecon capes that Shree was just talking about. Check it out. Yeah. New Minecon cape. Awesome. So anyways, what did he just say in the chat? These new Minecon capes are pretty neat. Yeah, I really like them. So anyways, back to the story. We went to this dinner that the Curse Network had got for a bunch of people. So a bunch of people were there just hanging out, having a good old time at this Curse dinner. So the way it worked is you could order a meal. You're supposed to like pre-order the meal, which was unfortunate because I didn't actually pre-order my meal in time. I didn't get the invite, and I unfortunately ended up with not being able to get the steak. It's kind of funny, in London apparently you can last minute get a hold of a bunch of duck, but you just can't get steak for the life of you. I need a bunch of these actually. You just can't get steak for the life of you after, you know, you can't just order steak. They have to, I don't know if they like, I don't know what they do, if they ship it in or what, I don't know. Maybe they don't have cows in that town. I have no idea how that really works. But either way, since I RSVP'd late, I was not allowed to get the steak, and I was only allowed to get the duck, but I was okay with the duck. I mean, the duck was actually the appetizer. Then there was like salmon or something. It was a good meal. I was appreciative of the meal. Not everybody enjoyed their meal as much, but the stuff that I had was delicious. So I was very happy with the meal. But when we were there, what we did is you could order drinks, but they had like a limited selection on what drinks you could have. I think, you know, part of it, you know, pay. A lot of people there, you can't pay for everybody to have drinks. That would just get a little bit ridiculous and a little bit expensive if you understand a lot of the group. And when you hear the rest of this story, it'll make a lot more sense as to why. So basically you could have, I think you could get like a beer, or there was wine for the table. And so I do need to have this in one row. Okay. it's not exactly a perfectly even cat, and that's why I was a little bit curious about how this worked. Actually, I need this. I'm going to shift this whole thing over a little bit. But either way, there was some wine for the table. We walked in, and everybody kind of spread out and sat where there was open seats. We happened to look around, and a couple of us who came in a little bit later, we noticed that there was not really seats all around the place for people to actually sit. Like, it kind of filled in. So we found this table in the back, and it was funny because it was like 4 super long tables, like, you know, wedding party type of tables, and then there was... This is not right either. What am I missing here? Maybe this is only one. Oh my god, this is only one wide. That's why. It's not too wide on either of the sides. So this is going to be fine. But it was like those, you know, the big wedding party tables or whatever, the big long ones. And there was one table in the back that we kind of walked up to because it was the only thing that was open, and the people in front of us were joking around. They're like, oh, you guys are at the kids' table. And we're like, yeah, whatever. We'll make the kids' table, you know, we'll make it fun and enjoyable because that's what we do. And so... I sat down at this table with Millbee, Jazz, Millbee's girlfriend, VintageBeef, and myself. So there was only 4 of us at this table that could have sat 6 people, but there was only 4 of us like left coming in, so it was just the 4 of us at this table for now. So we had ordered one of the bottles of wine for the table. We got a red wine for the table. So we're eating our meal, we're drinking the wine, we're having a good old time, and the evening starts to wind down, so people start to leave, and we're just still sitting there enjoying. We were like the last people there, so we were one of the last tables to get our food. So we were just enjoying, having a good time, relaxing. We finished our bottle of wine, and Millbee's like, I wonder if we can get another bottle of wine or not. So we kind of looked around, and instead of trying to get another bottle of wine, what we did was I noticed that one of the other tables had a bottle of wine that they hadn't opened up. And so I started to walk up to the table in order to get the bottle of wine. And as I approached the table, because I was going to go see if like nobody was drinking the wine, like we'd had been there for an hour already and it wasn't even cracked open. And I was thinking, if nobody cracked open this wine, I'm going to go take it for our table and we'll make sure it gets used. So as I start to walk up to it, a waiter literally grabs it like right from in front of me and starts to take it to the back. And I kind of looked at him for a minute and I kind of hesitated, but then I realized that there was no reason to hesitate, and I stopped him, and I was like, excuse me, sir, if you are walking away with that bottle of wine, I was like, we'd gladly take it over here at our table, and we'll drink it over here. And he was like, oh, okay, and he handed it back to me. So we now had our second bottle of red wine at the table. Now, strangely, this triggered 2 people from the table. They decided at that moment that they really wanted red wine. It had been sitting in front of them all night. They were sitting right next to the bottle. They didn't, for some reason, open the bottle, but the second the bottle was gone, it was like a child and a toy. Like, you take away their toy, and that's the only thing they've ever wanted in their life now at this point. And they now wanted, oh yeah, that looks awesome. Look at this. This is so cool. This is so cool. I'm very happy that Sannie made these little designs for me. So these people come up to, but now I have the bottle of wine. Like, I have the power. It's a bottle of wine is in my hand. I bring it back to our table. We open it up. We start pouring it. And they come up to us, and they're like, can we please just have a glass of that wine? Like, we didn't get any wine. We'd like a glass of wine. And I'm joking around with them, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if you guys can handle a glass of your own wine that we just stole from your table. So, of course, we gave them, you know, a glass of, you know, wine. So we gave them 2 glasses of wine from this bottle, which, if you know anything about wine, that essentially means that you pretty much have 1 glass or 2 glasses of wine left, because a table has about 4 glasses of wine per bottle is pretty much what comes. Maybe a little bit more if you're really stretching, but it's pretty much 4 glasses of wine per bottle. And my phone just went off. Sorry about that, folks. So no big deal. We figured we snuck away with one. We got an extra bottle of wine anyway that we originally weren't supposed to have, so we're happy anyway. So we started drinking this bottle of wine. You know, the 2 glasses that we have. Well, before we know it, another bottle of wine makes its way like to our table. It just like got set down at our table. We looked around and We're like, what's going on? And all of a sudden, this other table had walked over their bottle. They were leaving, and they hadn't drank their bottle of wine either. And they were like, oh, we saw you guys go get that other bottle of wine. And figured maybe we don't want this one to go to waste either. So they put their bottle of wine on the table. So at this point, we're excited. We're like, hell yeah, we got like an extra bottle of wine here. So Millbee, Jazz, and I, we open this thing up. You got to remember, so Beef is at our table as well. Beef's not a drinker. So Beef is not, you know, one of the glasses of wine that's going out on this wine that we have because, you know, it's it's Beef. He's not drinking. So there's 3 of us, and we're like, sweet, we got extra wine for the 3 of us. This is going to be great. So we start drinking this bottle of wine. Pyro and Chad look over from where they were at, and they were, I guess they were at a spot where they weren't really, I was about to sleep, but I forgot that Shree is on the server. They looked over at our table and realized we were having a blast. We were just having a load of fun, and we were laughing really hard the entire time we were doing this whole thing. We were just having a good old time, and Pyro and Chad were like, hey, we're not really talking to many people over at our table. Can we come over and join yours? And we still had 2 tables on the ends of our seats, and we're like, yeah, guys, come on over. So they come over, and I can't remember if they partook in our wine or not, but ironically, they both ended up sitting on their phone most of the time, which was funny because they came over because they were bored, and then they just ended up sitting on their phones. But either way, they had joined our table, and we were still all having a good old time. So we looked around, and before we knew it, we had probably 5 bottles of white wine sitting, or excuse me, of red wine sitting in front of us, and then 2 bottles of white wine had also made their way over to our table. So there's theoretically 5 of us that are drinking at this table at this point, but only 3 of us who really are drinking any of the wine. Oh man, oh man. Did you get him, puppy? I didn't say, I don't know if you actually fight those guys or not, but so there's not many people drinking at this particular moment, but there are, you know, we're drinking enough. So everybody's kind of funneling out of this place. There's not many people left in the restaurant anymore. And it's a restaurant that's connected to a hotel. So there's a hotel bar right up front, and you have to walk through the hotel bar in order to get over to the bathroom. Like you had to leave the restaurant, go through the hotel bar, go through the hotel lobby, and that's where the restaurant was. It was kind of weird, but either way, we keep making our trips back and forth to the bathroom and things like that. And one of the trips through to the bathroom, I noticed going through the hotel bar that Sannie is sitting there, and Sannie was staying in this particular hotel, and I just happened to walk by her, and I was like, Sannie, what's going on? And I was like, come on over and join our table. And she's like, okay, but I didn't go to this dinner. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Nobody else is there anymore. Everybody else is leaving. We got some wine to drink. Like, come on over. So she's like, okay. So Sannie comes on over. At the same token, MKTheWorst and Andrew from Approaching Nirvana had also been at this dinner, and they were there, and everybody else was leaving, but they weren't ready to leave yet because they were having a good old time, like drinking too. They just weren't at our table having as good a time as we were. So they ended up coming over and joining our table as well, and I think at this point, like, Chad and Pyro had decided to leave, so we pretty much filled up our table and filled it up with even like extra. I think we pulled extra chairs up to our table, even though we're now the only table left in this facility. We're pulling up extra chairs to this table and not leaving it and just having a good old time. We're drinking, and we are drinking, and we are drinking, and we are making jokes about how we're not going to leave there until every bottle of wine is gone. And then I will tell you that we looked down, and there's pictures that got tweeted out. There was probably, in total, that we ended up finding, and yes, we were those people. We went and found every half-drank bottle of wine, white wine or red wine at every table, and like collected it on our table because we were going to see if we could possibly finish all this wine. And there was probably about 15 total bottles of wine that we went through. Now with more than 3 people, because now you got, MK and Andrew joining in with us, and Sannie joining in with us, and drinking and having a good old time. We polished off every one of these bottles of wine. We probably sat at this restaurant for an extra 2 hours to finish off all this wine. And we were extremely Tipsy, I would say. I don't think any of us really like considered ourselves like over the top drunk or anything at this point, because we were, I don't know, we were just, when you're in really good company and just constantly all you're doing is laughing and having a good old time, it doesn't feel like you don't feel as drunk as you possibly could be, because you're just having such a good old time. So we had such a good old time, we decided that we're gonna leave and we're gonna move the party over to the hotel bar. So we just basically walked out and around the corner from the restaurant. I think we actually were getting kicked out at this point. Not kicked out as in like, get out of here, guys, you're ruining everything. It was more of a, we're closing, like the restaurant part is now closed, move this party onto the bar. So we did. And we went and took over this back section of this bar, and the hotel bar was empty this night. So we walked in there. We actually started in the front. We started, I don't know whose idea this was, but I think it was Millbee's, and we started by getting shots of tequila. Sounds like a good idea, right? Just start out with some shots of tequila after we just downed all these bottles of wine. So not only did we do shots of tequila, we all ordered beers, and then Millbee decides, he goes, I just made a big mistake. We're going to see how bad this is in the morning. I just opened up a tab. So pretty much Millbee has a tab running. We do this round of tequilas. We all have beers. At some point, this is when I start to get a little hazy. At some point, more tequila shots come around. More beers come around. More people come around. We take over this back section of the bar. We started with like 7 of us maybe. All of a sudden, there are probably 25 or 30 people from the convention, all like Minecraft people, whether they're with Mindcrack or with just, anybody else who was there, different groups of people. We started to like basically tweet out where we were at and having fun, and people just started to come in droves to our quote-unquote party, and this place filled up. We were there for probably 3 or 4 more hours, and this is 3 or 4 more hours after being at the other restaurant for such a long time. And Millbee was making a comment that he was so afraid to see what his bill was possibly going to be in the morning, because we were just pretty much putting things like, Millbee kept going up and getting rounds for people. He kept getting like double, what was he drinking? Vodka and Cokes? No, Amaretto and Cokes, I think he was drinking. He was getting doubles though, and he was getting like, he had 3 or 4 of them on top of, the beers and the tequila shots and all this stuff. And because we were just like, we were all just having such a good time. It's so good to just go hang out with people. And the funniest thing is, in the morning, there it is. In the morning, I ended up going home, and I went home earlier than most people did. And that was I think I didn't get home until 3. And that was earlier than most other people had gotten home. So that tells you something right there. But in the morning, we get back to Minecon. I got a little bit of a headache. It was a long night. Everybody had such a good time, though. And I asked Millbee how much the bill was. And I am not kidding you. The bill was 50 pounds, which is equivalent of 75 bucks, somewhere in there. And I looked at him and I said, what? And he goes, yeah, I went up to the guy to get my bill. He gave me a round. Oh, shoot. Crap. He gave me a round for free, and knocked a bunch of drinks off of the bill, because he said we were so much fun and we were so livening and so just having a good old time that we made the place look so lively that they wanted us to stay there because it was Saturday night and it was dead, and they were trying to draw in more business by using us, which apparently worked. Not only for our group, but for other groups of people instead, just showed up because the place looked like it was just jumping. So everybody came into this random hotel bar, and it was mainly because we were just there having such a good time. And the bartender even told this to Millbee, which is awesome. I mean, that shows how much fun we were actually having, because if you go to a bar and you're having a little bit too much fun and get a little bit too rowdy, if you know what I'm saying, they don't want you to stick around. They want you to leave, because you're being a nuisance and a disturbance. That was completely not the case. They even gave us free drinks for having so much fun, and that was awesome. That's what I got to say about that story. That was awesome. That is where, you know, that's what I think. That's one of the first days I hung out with Sannie on, like, more than just we're at the convention hanging out type of deal, like hanging out at you know, randomly at the restaurant, or at the, you know, the restaurant and then the bar, and just all night having a good old time. So I think it fits in with this story quite well because of the fact that this is, I need to cut this last leg off, don't I? This is Sannie's build for me, and I much appreciate it. And I think part of that is due to good friendships and good bonds that we have made together from experiences such as drinking late night at the hotel bar with everybody. Whoops, that was not what I wanted to put there. Having a good old time. And I'm going to finish this off real quick. Step back, take a look at this, and call this episode good. Hope you guys enjoy the stories from Minecon. I really do like... I really had such a good time. I got more stories to tell, but I think this one just fit in perfectly well with the fact that I'm, you know, building Sannie's build for me. I'm going to clear this all out. I wish I had a shovel on me right now. I would just go through and clear all the stuff out to make it so you could see it very well, but right now you can't. So anyways, guys, I think it looks great. Sannie, thank you very much. I'm gonna fill in this bottom, put a top on this, make this all even, move my cats and dogs out to this area, and I think it looks fantastic and fits in perfectly with what we got going on up here. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you appreciate the stories, and I will see you in the next episode with Shriam. Maybe not with Shriam in the next episode, but anyways, he's back.